So it's a pleasure to be with you. I was here a couple of days ago, and I was very impressed by the spirit of the school, and I'm glad to meet other students from other schools in the area, and to be able to share with you today something very universal, but very personal at the same time, which is how do we live, and what is the way in which, how can we live in a way that balances and energizes our lives. So we have a little time. I would like to talk about how I found it, how I found my way to being a monk. I'm not delivering a promotional address, so I'm not trying to get you to be monks or nuns. But I think there is something universal about the monastic wisdom, and it's the prophetic part of the prophetic part of the church. And I'd like to speak in particular about a particular way in which we can develop a rule of life, and that would mean introducing you to meditation. I think many of you, are you all familiar with meditation through your schools, are you? Good, okay, so we'll take a little time to meditate together at the end. By the way, I've lost my timetable, so I need to, so that you don't have to get anxious if I'm going on too long, all right? Thank you. Oh yeah, great. So we're starting 25 minutes late, by the way.
Yes.
Never mind. All right.
I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay, good. So, well, let me just give you a little bit of personal background. I was born in London. I'm actually 50% Irish, 36% Welsh, and only 6% English. But and that has been verified. So I was brought up in Catholic faith, and I have a very good appreciation of that and memory of that. It helped me greatly, I think, to understand what the Christian message is. At each stage of my education. And I think it also gave me a language, a symbolic language, which is often missing in our culture today, the way things have developed. A language to be able to express what is inexpressible. The great philosopher Wittgenstein said, if something can be said, it should be said. It can be said simply, and if it cannot be said, then it should be consigned to silence. But we need a language, a symbolic language, as humanity has developed through its wisdom traditions, to be able to express as well as we can what the central experience of human life is about. So I grew up in the church, and I went to a Benedictine school. It was a day school, and I appreciated that. It was a very good education. Actually, it had one very serious fault, which was that I left school without being able to read music, which I greatly regret. But apart from that, it prepared me very well, I think, and I found religious practice. I don't think I was over the top holy Joe, but I loved the liturgy and the religious aspects of life. It began to wear off actually after I left school, because I found in many ways I wasn't finding the connection that I needed, or it wasn't addressing the issues and problems that I was facing, you know, a little after childhood as I go into late teens and early adulthood. But I went to university at Oxford, and I studied English literature, which I loved. And in my first year, actually, I suffered a great loss. My sister died, and I was going through other issues. And I made contact with a monk called John Main, whose anniversary it is this year, centenary it is this year. And he sensed that I was in an important transitional stage, and he invited me to spend Easter with him at his monastery, which I did. And he was a great listener and a wise teacher, a wise man, a deeply spiritual man. And in one of our conversations, he introduced me to meditation, which I was not expecting. I was reading quite a lot in other faith traditions, particularly the Eastern traditions and Buddhism and the Indian tradition. So you would have thought I would have been thinking about meditation, but I wasn't actually focused much on meditation as a practice. It was more the ideas and the language. But he introduced me to meditation in a conversation in a very light way, with a light touch, and but in a way that at that moment seemed to me very life-changing. I felt it was a very important moment for me. But it was a confused moment too, because intellectually I couldn't really understand what he was talking about. How can you take your attention off your thoughts, which is what he was telling me meditation is about. Meditation is not what you think. We're not thinking about God. We're not thinking about ourselves or our problems. We're not thinking big ideas. We're not also planning our agenda for the afternoon. So, but what does it mean to take the attention off your thoughts? It sounded to me like taking the plug out of a computer and expecting it to work. But at the same time, as I was intellectually puzzled by what he was saying, although what he was saying was a simple explanation of something at the heart of the Christian mystical tradition, meditation is the journey from mind to heart. And we make this journey by letting go of our thoughts and fantasies, imaginations and fears, little by little, step by step. So although I was intellectually bewildered by it, I felt something at what I would now call my heart. The heart is a symbol in religious language in all traditions of the center of the human person. It's the center of love. When you fall in love, you learn to love God, or you feel that you are loved. That's where this knowledge arises. In fact, in the Bible, the word knowledge should equally well be translated as love. So the heart is this faculty or this capacity of consciousness we have to recognize, experience, and to open ourselves to love. I didn't know, I didn't feel, I wouldn't have put it in those terms at that moment, but I knew that what I was feeling as I heard him speak was touching my heart, opening my heart in a new way that it hadn't before, and it also contained a new kind of desire, a desire for this knowledge of the heart. And I think one of the great things about the philosophy of education that you are benefiting from is that it contains very essential element, which is the education of the heart. That is the fundamental. Aristotle said, if you only educate the mind, it's not worth it. You have to educate the heart as well. And I think that needs to be integrated into our into teaching, into education of philosophy, into the vision of the church. In a world like ours, where we have lost this heart knowledge, the wisdom traditions teach us what the heart means, but these wisdom traditions are very marginalized now. We've been taken over very much by the left brain consciousness. We might come back to that if we have time. Anyway, at that moment, I felt this sort of hunger, really, desire to know what this meant, what was this about. And that desire, in a way, has never left me. I would say it's what kept me remembering what he said about meditation for a number of years before I actually started to meditate myself. And so it's been part of my life for a long time. It led me in the end to become a monk myself. And in doing so, I discovered the wisdom of Saint Benedict. Saint Benedict was a 6th century monk. The word Benedict means Benedictus, blessed. So it's a slightly legendary archetypal figure, but he was real. And he began life in northern Italy, was sent to school in Rome, and I don't want to put any ideas into your head, but he dropped out of school. And he found the education he was receiving there wasn't what he needed or was looking for, and found the whole place very uncongenial. And so he went off. In those days, there wasn't a big hierarchy or a big mechanics about becoming a monk. He found a monk living a solitary life who initiated him into the monastic life, and he spent the next 10 years or so in a cave, which you can visit, Sacre Specco. There's a beautiful Benedictine monastery there now, just north of Rome. And that was where he did his inner work, struggled with his demons, and made this journey into the heart. And the connection between the Benedictine life and education began there, actually, because the local shepherds would come to him for instruction. And next to his cave, there was what is known as the shepherd's cave, and it was there that he taught them. So here's a connection between contemplation and teaching, right from the beginning of this tradition, of the monastic tradition. And then he founded a number of monasteries, and for the next 40 or 50 years managed them. And during his life, he wrote a rule of life. And it's the basic rule of life for religious life, in a way, in the church generally, and specifically for the Benedictine order and the Benedictine inspired orders. So it's the oldest order in the church. And the wisdom of this rule is that it is highly practical. Most of the chapters have titles like what kind of clothing the monk should wear, or what time should the meals be, or how can decisions be made in a monastery, calling the brethren to council. Very practical things. But at the heart of it, and at the beginning there's a prologue in which he talks about his vision, his inspiration. And it begins with this beautiful image of the Lord addressing you in a crowd. So you're in a crowd, you're anonymous, you're just one more statistic. But then you feel a connection with the Lord, with God, coming through a question. And it's a question that all of us have. The question is, what do you want out of life? And do you want to live a full, flourishing, and complete life? And if so, are you prepared to do what is necessary to achieve that? And then he says, if you are answering yes to this question, yes, I want to be fully alive, then here is a way of life, or a rule of life that you can follow. Now, so the rule of St. Benedict emerges out of this universal human hunger for completion, for fullness, for wholeness. That's what is the meaning of life. There's a lot of feeling in the world today that life is hopeless, that it doesn't have meaning, that things are breaking down. So it's vital for us, I think, to go back to that fundamental human. And in an age of AI, which everyone is sweating about at the moment, to realize what it is to be human, and what no AI program is ever going to come near to reproducing. What is it to be human? So it comes down to this innate hunger we have for love, for the heart to be fully open to reality and to be interacting with life, with all its ups and downs, in a balanced way, so that we are able to navigate the ocean of life with its storms and with its peaceful moments and with its wonderful gifts of love, of relationship, of developing your gifts, all of those wonderful things that we are able to do as human beings, and also to deal with the problems, the losses, the disappointments, the broken hearts that we live with as well. How can we keep that balance so that all of this can be integrated and become grist for the mill, that it becomes part of our education of the heart? Well, Benedict gives has a simple understanding of daily life and of the human being, and that how we live our daily life needs to respect the elements of our humanity. So what I mean is body, mind, and spirit. That is the wonder of the human being. We're not just intellects, we're not just minds, we're not just our appetites or our bodies or our, training our bodies. And the spirit is not, as it were, a separate dimension of the human. The spirit is that dimension of inclusivity, of unity. It's what allows the body and the mind to play together, to be in harmony. And when that happens, we begin to flourish. We begin to know what fullness of life means. The body and the mind in harmony. There's a tension between them, of course, but that tension is just the kind of tension you use when you're doing sport. It's the tension of any movement that we make. So, how do we live a life that allows that harmony between body, mind, and spirit to be respected and nurtured day by day in an ordinary way? And so he describes a life which is composed of three main elements, which would, I think, be applicable to everyone in any form of life. The first is work. And for him, that usually meant manual work, working in the farm, but any kind of work. And over the centuries, of course, in monasteries, many kinds of work, including scribal, copying out manuscripts, and teaching, and everything else. So work is a vital element of our humanity. And we need to find our own work. What is it that what is your work in life? What is it that you can do which will do two things? It will bring out the best in you, and it will produce benefits for others. If you find that kind of work, you have found good work. And that good work will bring you great joy and satisfaction. I was talking to a primary school teacher yesterday. I bumped into him in the Catholic bookshop at the cathedral. I was talking to RECs there. And so I asked him what he was doing. He told me he was teaching. And I said, how do you like it? He said, I love it. I said, you find it stressful? Because many teachers I meet find life very stressful. So he said, no, I don't find it stressful at all. I don't even think about it as work. I love it. And there aren't many people in the world who you meet who say that to you, and you know that they really mean it. Oh, welcome. Your bus was late. Table there, I think. So, What?
I'll give you another 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, okay. Anyway, good work. The other element of the wisdom of Benedict is study. For him, that was largely about studying Scripture, Lectio Divina. But of course, out of this came the great universities of Europe, first universities in the Church, and the whole life of the mind, study, culture. And the third element in the daily life of his community is prayer. And prayer that is regulated, in the word for rule is in Latin is regula. And it doesn't mean that it's oppressive. Regulations for us sound like oppressive, but it means that there is an order and a structure in life. And that basic framework of life is held together by prayer. So in our community in France, which you can see it's our international center, the language is English. We live in this Benedictine tone and style of life. We pray together morning, midday, and evening at set times. And usually we eat immediately after the prayer, and then we do our work, whatever our work may be. I'm working now, although I'm enjoying doing it with you. So this is what I mean by a rule of life. And I think in some way everybody, if you're living in a community, then it's kind of regulated, and you either like that You might like it for a month. People come to us and stay with us for a month and share in the life and work of the community. You might like it temporarily, you might like it forever. But in some way, everybody, I think, in whatever form of life you end up in, and whatever kind of work you're doing, we need to have this rule of life that holds it together. And the way to hold it together are those times of prayer, according to the wisdom of Benedict. And so, every day, punctuate it with times of prayer. And what we do in our community, we integrate the meditation with the readings of the office and the other forms of prayer. When we have Mass, we meditate after communion. So it's integrated. So what I'd like to do is just take, if we can. So when are we going to be able to meditate?
I think we might conclude with meditation.
We won't. If we do that, we won't conclude with it. It will be too late. What? We'll do it now, yeah? Okay. So we'll just take a short time to meditate together, because to help you to process this a bit, but the way to process it is not to think about it. Meditation is not what you think. So the first step also in meditation is to understand that it is an embodied way of prayer. It's the body, the mind, and the spirit come together in the work of meditation. Meditation is an interior work, a spiritual work. So your posture then is important. So would you, if you like, sit upright, with your back straight, your hands on your knees, and your feet on the ground, so that basically you feel stabilized, comfortable, but also alert. Then, just take a moment to be aware of your breath. The continuous cycle of breath keeps us alive. And meditation is as natural to the spirit as breathing is to the body. And then we begin this good work of meditation by taking our word, our mantra, sacred word, and repeating it gently, faithfully in the mind and heart during the time of the meditation. And that is all we have to do. Of course, the mind, which is probably a little bit overstimulated, oversaturated with images, with screens, with thoughts, worries, plans, anxieties, daydreams, fantasies, all of the stuff we find in our minds, that is flowing on. So you can't just turn that off. But what we can do is to take the attention off all of that thought activity. And we do it by paying attention. The essence of prayer is attention, pure attention, just as it is the essence of every human relationship and the essence of love itself. Paying attention, giving our attention. To give your attention is to give yourself. So say the word with attention, gently, and when you get distracted, don't evaluate yourself. There are no grades for meditation. There's no success. There's no test or exam to pass. And there's no failure. There is only learning to be faithful to the practice, which is a delightful work. So the word I would recommend is Maranatha. It's a sacred word in the Christian tradition. It means, come Lord, but we're not thinking about that as we say it, but we're saying the word, listening to the word as we say it, and allowing thoughts to be let go of by returning to the word. It's like walking a little path through a jungle or through the wilderness. And when you wander off the path and you get lost in the jungle of your thoughts, you are never more than one step away from the path. That means you just begin to say your word again and you're back on the path into your heart. So we say our word with love, with attention, with faith. Ma-ra-na-tha.
How do you pay attention to prayer while you work?
Well, obviously, if you're... Oh, very good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, if you're working, you wouldn't need to pay full attention to what you're doing. If you're fixing a car, or you're writing an essay, or you're building a, outhouse, you need to pay full attention to it so that it becomes good work. But you can do it in a prayerful way. And the way to do that is to open the sluices in your heart. I mean, open your heart to what is there, the energy of love, which is the prayer of the Spirit in you. That's the central Christian idea. The heart is already full of prayer. It is full of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit we have received. So that's the energy, that's energy. And we feel that energy as love, as joy, and as peace. So all you have to do is to open that channel and let it, it's like getting connected in Wi-Fi, open that channel and keep it open the whole day. You're on constant connection. And then you can pay attention with obviously another part of your mind to whatever the work is that you're doing. Now, how do you open the heart to allow that energy to flow? That's where you need a little regular practice. Just as if you want your body to run properly, you need to do exercise. And then you can run up the stairs and you can play sport and you can enjoy the body as well. But that depends upon exercise. So those 2 times of meditation a day are the work you're doing to open the heart and keep it open and allow it to stay open for the rest of the day. That's a great gift. And many people feel stress, anxiety in their lives. They don't feel this inner peace that Jesus is speaking about. It's not a reward for being good, really. It's an unconditional gift we've already received, but we haven't banked it. We haven't banked it yet. We haven't opened the channel yet. And so there's no pharmaceutical company that has yet come up with a pill that will do that. That is what prayer is about. And there's no AI program that's going to do it for you. This is our own inner work.
What prompted the start of your journey?
What prompted the start of my journey? Well, that is an interesting question. I mean, that moment that I mentioned to you when John Main introduced me to meditation, I mean, that was a turning point in my life. Now, I felt at the time I was very impressed by what I heard. You don't know, actually, until later whether that really is a turning point in your life. You know, it takes you 50 years to be able to say that it definitely was. But yeah, I would say that that's what got me on this path, definitely. And it gave me, it was a few years before I started to put it into practice, but I never forgot it. And this is the important thing. You have to hear something that connects you to the sacred and to your own heart. You may not put it into practice for a while, but don't forget it. It will come back to you when you need it. But that was certainly a starting point. But then, you know, there are many others. I started writing my memoirs when I was sick last year, and I gave up doing it after a while. But I'd like to get back to it, and it made me realize, you know, there are many starting points in life, many turning points. And it's important to be conscious of them and recognize them when they're happening.
You mentioned the importance of the question of what it means to be human. What do you think it means to be human?
There's a question in the early monastic teachers, what is it to be a monk? And their answer is, a monk is someone who asks themselves every day, what is a monk? So what it is to be human is to ask oneself what it is to be human. And again, AI doesn't say what does it mean to be AI. By the way, my friends who are experts in AI say calling it intelligence begs the question, and it's confusing. It is wonderful, but it ain't intelligent. And of course, there are different kinds of intelligence, and as you know, just being clever, having a great memory, and having a very fast-working mind, IQ. There's also emotional intelligence, physical intelligence, but there's also spiritual intelligence. So a human being is one who has these different kinds of intelligence. Only the human has spiritual intelligence, which is this capacity to know and never to be satisfied is what it is to be human. Never to live fully, but never overindulge, because your appetite for life always increases, for life itself. And so the human being begins to be aware of a human being is an entity that comes to self-knowledge. And it says in the Psalms, I thank thee, Lord, for the wonder of my being. Well, there are times when you don't feel your being is wonderful. You feel that it's tired. You feel that it's depressed. You feel sad. You feel anxious. But fundamentally, that is how we are designed by God's creation, is to feel the wonder of our own being, and also to be aware that we are a microcosm, that the whole universe is summed up in us, and we are the consciousness of the universe. And then self-knowledge, that is self-knowledge, and self-knowledge leads us directly into the knowledge of God. You cannot know God without knowing yourself, and you cannot know yourself without coming to know God.